All right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Power Lunch as part of the 1,000 Conversation About the Future series. This, again, is a project of the Ithaca Green New Deal that aims to engage you in a conversation about the future of Ithaca. And as always, I am your lovely and charming host, Rebecca Evans, Sustainability Planner with the City of Ithaca. And also returning is our brilliant Lariah, who will be managing our YouTube chat. So if you have any questions or comments, please, we encourage you to interact with us via the chat function, and Lariah will funnel all of your questions to our speakers, and we'll do our best to respond to them. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most concerning, I think, topics in the city is around planning and affordable housing. As we know, we are at critically low housing stock for affordable housing. So we are welcoming two of the finest experts in this field locally, Lisa Nicholas, Acting Director of Planning and Development, and Johanna Anderson, Executive Director of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services. So we certainly have our expertise in the house today to talk about both of these things. So again, if you have questions, please, we encourage you to ask them in the chat. So welcome, Lisa and Johanna. Super grateful to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm hoping for folks that maybe aren't familiar with the two organizations, with the Planning and Development Department and with INHS, can you give us a little bit of an idea of, what do your agencies do? And then, what is your role or function within each of those organizations?
Lisa, do you want to tee it off?
Sure. So I am the acting director of planning and development, which for the city of Ithaca. And my department has planning, building, so all the building and housing code inspection, exterior property maintenance, and then economic development, sustainability, zoning, historic preservation. It really brings together so many professions and specialized practices that affect the physical development of the city. We're 25 people, and we staff many boards that approve development projects or approve modifications to properties. So yeah, we do long-term planning, shorter-term planning, and we do lots of implementation of the plans through our quasi-judicial boards and through other planning initiatives. Johanna.
Thanks. So Johanna Anderson, and I'm the Executive Director of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, also known as INHS. We are a private nonprofit that has been around since 1976. We got our start at a time when community development, it was relatively a new idea that for community development to truly work, you have to have three voices involved. You need to have local government, you need to have local residents, and you need to have local businesses, because those are the three voices that really know what's best for their community and how to make it thrive. And so our nonprofit was formed with those three groups serving on our board. And we have representation from those three groups that still continue to serve on our board to this day. We got our start maybe in just one particular neighborhood in the city of Ithaca. And now over the past 4.5 decades, we've expanded to 7 counties. So we basically have 3 different lines of business. The first one is real estate development. So we're building both larger multifamily homes for rentals, and then we're also building single family homes, which would be for home ownership. We have a property management department that is managing just over 530 units across 3 different counties. And then we have our home ownership department, which focuses on first-time home buyers, helping low and moderate income people buy their first homes. And then it's also helping homeowners who have low to moderate incomes actually make health and safety improvements so that they can stay in their homes. Our nonprofit currently has around 47 people full-time employed, and with every new project that comes on, when our real estate development department builds something, it's our property management staff that handles it. So we continue to grow with each new project that comes on and each new initiative that we take on.
That's super helpful. Thank you both. And I want to pose a little question for you. Both of you mentioned sort of how you are working with various stakeholders, including the public. So I'm curious, it sounds like INHS has a board that has kind of a structured way to incorporate public opinion. And I know the city has public forums and that sort of thing, public meetings that residents are able to come forward and speak their mind, whatever the topic is. So I'm a little bit curious, in terms of decision making, how do you balance sort of the varying interests? We know that residents don't always agree with exactly what the city or what INHS or whatever the organization is doing. How do you balance those interests based on the expertise that you have and your familiarity with how the city works or how INHS works? How do you balance those differing interests?
Well, I think that Lisa and I exist in two very different worlds. So Lisa has as a public servant, Lisa, and you can speak to this, but you have an obligation to inform the public.
That's right. Yeah.
Provide the public with all
That's
of
right.
the documents. Everything is an open book. As a private nonprofit, we don't have those same requirements. Our board meetings are not open to the public, and we are not foilable. So any resolution that we pass is really our own entity. That being said, I think the reason that we have been successful for so many years is because we realize that we are very much ingrained in the fabric of this community, and we need to make sure that we are hearing what the community needs are, because what a particular neighborhood in Ithaca needs may not work in another neighborhood in Ithaca, or it may not work in Newfield or Trumansburg. Or Watkins Glen. We want to be very cognizant of the actual local areas that we're serving and making sure that they feel like their views are being incorporated into the project.
And I'd say one thing that we've really appreciated working with INHS through the development review process is that you have done community charrettes and really taken really meaningful community input and integrate it into the designs for these projects. And does it satisfy everybody? No, but you've done that, and that is really serious work. So we really have appreciated it. It's something we ask everybody to do, but not everybody does it. You really do it very seriously. So
wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I will say too that even once the building is built, we're still very much here. I mean, we don't have the intention of selling off a building or sending it under outside managements. And so if there is any issue at the property, or if there is any question that somebody may have, they have my cell phone number, they have my email. We are on all of the neighborhood listservs and being as responsive as we can possibly be. So again, you're right though, you can't please everybody, but we're trying.
Yeah. And I'd say from like a city point of view, so the way I look at public input is, first of all, everybody gets to participate and say what they want and comment on projects and processes. But the way it works is kind of a two-level thing. Like there's the planning process, which says, what does the city want and where is it going to go and what is it going to be zoned and how big is it going to be? That's a huge undertaking that has a whole public process built into it. And sometimes it's incredibly extensive. Once that plan has been adopted and the zoning for a place has been adopted, that's kind of set. We can't really, that is this, the community has spoken, even if people don't agree with it, the community has spoken, common council has acted on it. And then, then we have the whole review process for individual projects, which isn't about should the building go there or is it the right size? It's more about, okay, is it compatible with the neighborhood? Are the materials high quality? Does it take into consideration pedestrian access? Does it accommodate traffic? So it's all the sort of the design details. Does it have environmental impacts, And so sometimes people, so those are very different questions. So sometimes people will come and comment about a development project and they'll say, but this shouldn't be here and this should, or if it is here, it should be smaller. And those decisions have kind of already been made. So actually, you know, I always try to coach people who want to comment on the things that the board they're commenting to has jurisdiction to make decisions on. And that is kind of a, you know, I think it's hard to understand who has jurisdiction over what, you know, and so if you want your comment to be impactful or effective, you should comment on the thing that the board is deciding. And, you know, for instance, in the development review process, the board is not deciding, you know, if the building should be, you know, there are, you know, what size and height the building should be. That's not their jurisdiction. They're about, you know, how is it going to impact and integrate into the community? It's not about what use. It shouldn't be, you know, unless it has an environmental impact. And so, you know, sometimes with, especially with affordable housing projects, when they're going through the review process, we get a lot of these kinds of comments about, oh, it shouldn't be there. It's, you know, it should be somewhere else. Well, that's already been decided. So let's figure out the best way to integrate it into the fabric of our neighborhoods.
And, you know, for some of the projects, they can have as many as, you know, 15 different sources of funds going into the construction of them. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that those 15 different sources each have their own overlays of rules that may impact how the building is designed. It may impact how the building is operated. It may impact, you know, who is allowed to live there, at what income levels they need to be at. And there's the ongoing monitoring of this. So it's not like, you know, as a nonprofit or an affordable housing provider that we are just sitting down with a blank canvas and saying, all right, let's do what we want to do this time.
Yeah.
We're trying to thread a needle with so many different regulations and oversight to make it possible to actually have a building that can operate successfully. And just because a funding source is available, we also have to be very thoughtful about, like, well, just because it's there, does it mean that it really works well with this project? And so you have to take that into consideration. I don't think that, I mean, the state produces design guidelines so that our bedroom sizes, the closets that go along with them, have to be a certain number of feet. And like, that's something that a lot of people don't understand or take into consideration.
And that really impacts the size of the building and what the exterior looks like. And to have to have storage and appropriate storage is such a huge thing, because although the planning board doesn't look at, you know, when we do development review, we don't look at the inside layout only to the extent that it affects the outside layout, but we do notice that state-funded projects have much better layout and amenity inside than other kinds of projects. So yeah, we really appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that we started doing recently is putting out surveys of existing tenants, because when we're talking about a new development, so Founders Way right now is currently under construction. It's right near downtown Ithaca. When we were putting together and doing all of those charrettes, the thing that we kept coming back to is the person that is going to live in that unit eventually is not here right now. What we have right now are interested neighbors and stakeholders and things like that. But one of the things that we found really insightful for us and helpful was the fact that we did these pretty intense surveys of our existing tenants to say, what about your building amenities do you like? What kind of amenities do you wish you had? Do you feel like work orders are being done? And so we're trying to put all of these things together so that it can influence the future buildings, because we don't know who those residents will be yet.
And that, I mean, I think that that kind of, it's a very different thing than just doing your market research, you know, and figuring out who will rent a 2-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment, you know, and it really makes the projects so much more sustainable. And, you know, like really that kind of work really integrates them into these neighborhoods, because people are going to stay because they have the kinds of things that they want. that make living pleasurable and comfortable, and you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think about it too, Lisa, that you talk about the strong relationship that we have with the city, and it's wonderful. And what I think we're so appreciative of is that when the city is putting together something like the Green New Deal, when it's still in its very infancy of an idea, that the city is willing to reach out to our design team and our real estate team to say, these are the components that we want to have. And our response is normally that, like, okay, well, let's try it out on a pro forma that we've already done, and let's try it out and incorporate these things into buildings that we're about to do. So going forward right now, every single building that we're going to be making is all new construction is going to be electric, whether that's for sale or multifamily. And so we're working through how to handle that, and even how to go back as we're handling our current real estate portfolio as part of the asset management. Are we including those kind of rehabs to convert from natural gas to electric? Because in years past, we just didn't have the funds available, and the equipment was not available to have like an electric hot water heater. It just it didn't exist for a large scale building. So
Well, yeah, for sure. I think that the city and INHF have worked really well together over the years. And, an example from the city side of what you've done, aside from just building very high quality, desirable, affordable housing everywhere, is, the city has asked INHS to do something that is not easy, and that is to include for sale housing in their projects. It's very hard to do, and they have done that. All of their larger projects have included a for sale component, and I know it wasn't easy, and I know it was expensive, but that was a real value. That was a real desire and value of the community to have some for sale housing that was accessible to people with low and moderate incomes, and that really creates a lot of trust and cooperation when we work back and forth like that.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. Our community housing trust has always been, it's not able to grow to scale like multifamily. When you're talking about a building that's 50 units, it's hard to do 50 single family homes, but we've been putting out 4 units at a time or a duplex and things like that. And now at this point, we are about to hit 70 homes in the community housing trust. And then we have about another 20 in the pipeline that we're moving forward with development. So it's very exciting.
That's significant.
We've been able to expand not just from households at 80% AMI, but now we're going up to, we have a couple of units that are at 100% AMI. So, and one of the things that we want to talk about internally right now is the idea that all of these homes are just for first-time home buyers. But now, as it's gotten larger, I keep coming back to the fact that we have households that still qualify income-wise for that price point, but they've outgrown the house, and so now they need to find a new place to live, and now they have to go compete at market levels, which is really going to be next to impossible for them to find something that is high-quality housing stock. So those are larger conversations that we're going to be having over the next 3 years. We're working on our strategic plan right now, but these are thinking a little bit further down the road about the longer term impacts of all of this.
Thank you both. We have some comments coming in just about sort of devotion to process and public feedback, and folks are really appreciative of that. And so it sounds like, you're both working directly with the public in different capacities, but I'm wondering specifically if you have a memory of a specific project that was really grassroots in nature, or that responded directly to a community need that's especially close to your heart. We love talking about passions here. So I encourage you to take a second, think about what one of those projects might be, and maybe tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Lisa, if you don't mind,
No, go, yeah.
okay. This is top of mind for me right now because it's nearing completion. This is our largest single site development that we have done to date. It is also our most complicated, and that is Founder's Way. It is here in Ithaca. There was the Immaculate Conception School, and it operated until 2016. It was beloved by a lot of people in this community. Even we had people coming in from outside of town to have their kids go to school here. And so in 2016, the Archdiocese out of Rochester decided to sell the building. And we were lucky enough to be chosen as the buyer of it. And so we made sure that we knew it would be big. And so what we ended up doing is having several community meetings over the course of several months where we showed designs, we talked about the amenities, we talked about the different components. We got feedback about, wow, looking at the streetscape, we really don't want it to be too high. We want it to mesh well. And then they also, a big piece was that it's adjacent to Beverly J. Martin Elementary School. It's sharing quite a bit of lot line with them. So how is your construction schedule going to impact the elementary school? How is it going to impact, of course, COVID happened. How's it going to impact all of the surrounding neighbors who have to be working from home? And so ultimately it ended up being, it's going to be 75 units of rental. We were able to save a really well-loved house that's right on the corner. We basically did a gut rehab of the entire thing, and that's part of the rental component. We were able to save half of the school, and so that's being rehabbed. The other half of the school, it was kind of an L-shaped building. The other half was structurally just not sound enough, so we had to tear that down. So now you've got a new construction building that we're trying to tie together and marry at that point. It's going to house 2 different local nonprofits. It is going to have some services be provided by Racker. And it also has 4 units of for sale housing that are going into the Community Housing Trust. In addition to that, Catholic Charities has their longtime building on the site. And so we purchased that. We've entered into a long-term lease with Catholic Charities so that they can continue operating in a location that is known by all. And we're absolutely thrilled and so excited to see this go up. And my favorite thing, I just found out, I saw the first drawings of it yesterday. We have a local artist that is designing a mural that will go all along the back wall of our multifamily and look down over the playground.
School. Yeah, because that's great.
Yeah, it is. It's I got a little teary-eyed when I saw the mural. I should say, so it's a local artist that's doing it, but it was designed by the students at Beverly J. Martin. So it has all the components. I mean, one of my coworkers, her daughter is in 1st grade, and she would come home every day talking about how she's got this world famous artist and she gets to influence what's going on in the back of this building. And so we're really excited about that and being able to, we're taking one of the, I think it's a kindergarten class, is really interested in touring the construction sites. So we've got a ton of little, I didn't even know they read them, but I have 30 tiny hard hats sitting in my office that's ready to go. And our general contractor is really excited to take them on the tour of the development. So I don't know, it's those kind of things where there's, yes, you're making good quality homes for people and they get to live near the heart of Ithaca and be connected to all of these amenities.
Next to a school.
But then there's these little touches that we get to do that just are joyful and
that project is really nice because it incorporated these 2 lovely buildings and then that would be.
I don't know. I'm really excited about the moving thing. And I know that there's a little bit of confusion in the community about the name of it. And it is named Founder's Way, not because of founding fathers, but it's because it was supposed to come online in our 45th year of existence, and it really is going to be there to commemorate the people and the institutions that started our organization. So we'll have a nice kind of monument that recognizes them and lists all of their names. And so I'm very excited to have that happen, and that the ribbon cutting
Yes.
bring all of them together.
And everything that you mentioned is, and I'll get to my project in a minute, but everything that you mentioned is really one of those parts of planning and physical development that we, it's not just about, okay, we need 100 housing units, we need 10 of them to be affordable. It's about making a place that's meaningful, and all of that is the smaller details and how to make it feel like home and make something feel like a special place. We've all seen developments that don't feel that way, and we know what that's like. So to integrate those things, that's really a really an integral part of what we like to see in planning is, and that's part of what, because of property rights and zoning, we can't tell people you can't build. The projects are already, they come to us, but our job in the city is to make them as good as possible, the best outcome for the city. So touches like that are just, that really is the best outcome for, those things make a huge difference in people's lives.
And I think it's helpful too that, the city of Ithaca is so unique. I'm a newcomer here, right? I've lived here for 4.5 years, and I've lived in a lot of different places, but the city of Ithaca is so unique in the fact that everyone here has an opinion, a belief about a certain thing, and everyone feels very comfortable sharing that opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think I really am an optimistic person, and so I feel like by receiving all of this input back, it helps us be better.
It does help you be better, and that's the point. Like I said, it's when we are talking about adding more housing options, it doesn't just, we just don't want more, we want better too. We want both things, and both can exist. So I was thinking about a project that really kind of felt like such a big victory for me, and there are many people who worked on it, so I'm not going to take credit for it, of course, but it's a development project, one of our first development projects on the newly zoned and planned waterfront. It was a piece of property that had pretty much been vacant. We made a road and called it Carpenter Business Park. It was going to be a business park. We put all the infrastructure and the road in there, and it sat vacant for 30 years. We zoned it all different ways, to have development never came. And then but what the property did include, because, and I'm not even sure when it was established, but the property did include was 2 acres of community gardens that over the years had just become a beloved, a beloved place for so many people. There were, I think it's like 240 plots, and it was a total grassroots, board. And they had a lease with the city because we owned part of the property, and but it was just very very organic. People came from all over the city to garden there. And so when this development came in, the gardens were like in the middle of the property, and the developable land was on either side of the property. And they were proposing a lot of development, many housing units, mixed use, retail, and major medical facility, all of which is currently under construction. But the housing and the medical facilities were really exciting to us, but the fragility and the importance of the garden was really paramount. And they were suggesting we have this process that developers can go through called the PUD process, planned unit development. So basically, if there's enough community benefits, they are allowed to write their own zoning, and get that zoning has to be approved. but they have to in return give community benefits back. So those can be many different things, but it has to be more than, okay, this is a development where we are, building all this housing that you need. That's the community benefit. It has to be more than just the development. So in this case, we worked with the developer to develop zoning, and it actually wasn't that far from the zoning that was allowed. And they maintained and improved the community gardens. It's currently under construction. So this was like, the organization really struggled to have fencing and enclosed composting and all that kind of stuff. So they retained the community gardens and they're improving it right in the center of the development. And they have a 40-unit affordable housing apartment of affordable housing right next to it. So it was such a big win to have this really grassroots organization kind of come out on top of this and have it accessible to people who are going to live there. And that was, to me, a great win.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is such a well-used space. And it's, what I love is every time I would go past, it was people of all ages that are all
over the world. Yeah.
Yes. It was
Gardening
really nice. When is the completion date for that one?
So for the whole project?
Yeah, for Carpenter Park and.
Yeah, so it's now called Cayuga Park.
Okay.
And so the medical facility is currently under construction. And so is the affordable. They want to break ground on the two mixed use. I would say it'll be 2025 before the whole thing is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
but the gardens are we planned it so that the gardens wouldn't lose a season. So they are, in the process of restructuring.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's very good. Yeah, I mean, right now it's so tricky with. I mean, we're talking about using the term post-pandemic, but it's not. It's just morphing into the newest thing for us to deal with, and so.
Yes.
But I think the supply chain continues to be an issue.
Yes, right. For construction projects. I'm sure you felt it. We see it all the time. In our own operations, we can't buy the things we need to do infrastructure that we need.
It just doesn't exist. Or if it does exist, you're paying premiums of 40% in some cases. And then it's also labor and finding skilled labor to do all of these things, because you want to make sure that the building's well built.
Right.
So I think timelines of all of these different projects in the pipeline are very fluid at the moment. They've always been kind of,
yes.
But now it's more of like this kind of.
Yeah.
I really loved hearing about both of those projects. It's clear both of you are really, really invested, not just in planning and affordability, but going beyond sort of what are the community needs and really investing in a sense of place for this community. So I know that we're all really appreciative of that. But I'm curious, obviously you're both really passionate about the work you do, but why? Like, why planning? Why affordable housing? How did you get here? What brought you to your respective agencies?
Well, so I got a degree, undergraduate degree in French and art history, which was great. I loved it. But and then I became a landscaper, right? Which I also loved. I've always been passionate about transforming the physical environment, right? Like, even if it's just with a shovel. So, and after I graduated as an undergraduate, I went into the Peace Corps and I worked in West Africa, and I really learned a lot about the difference between what a community wants and what's available for them to have. I saw many development projects kind of like, well, this is what US government or the Chinese government, or whatever government wants the community to have. They wanted them to have this particular thing. And then, of course, it seemed obvious, but then, it would get installed and people would leave and the well would break. And, 5 years later, people were just going back to the river. So it just gave me kind of this idea about like, wow, how do you really impact a community, and how do you give people what they need, and just thinking about all of that. So when I came back to the United States, I moved to New Mexico, and I started, doing same kind of work again. I was working with native plants and, trying to design landscapes for people that, respected the environment and things like water. And I kept looking up the things that I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to get a master's degree. And so it was all, sustainability, natural resource management, public participation. And I didn't even know planning existed, but they all happened in the planning school. So finally, after, having this experience like 5 times of looking up classes I wanted to take and noticed they were in the planning and landscape architecture school, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. So there are many, many disciplines in planning, and, I focus more on a physical landscape, like landscape planning and landscape design, but, we learn the same aspects in all of them. So yeah, it was a great way to discover it because I didn't already know it existed.
Yeah, I hope career planning has come a long way since I was there. Because yeah, Lisa, I ended up getting my undergrad in English literature with no plans to teach. It was just, I felt like reading these different authors, and
we were trying to get educated. That's what you did then.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked afterwards at going into construction management, because I always really enjoyed building things, and I really enjoyed home design and things like that. And so I wanted to go into the construction management, and they happened to have a master's program. So I met with one of the professors and over lunch and told him, what I wanted to do. And he was trying to be diplomatic, but then after a while, he just said, "You don't stand a chance in this field. It's not for somebody like you. So good luck to you." And
meaning it was a male-dominated field. Is that right?
Yeah. It was pretty clear after that this was just not for me, is what I was being told. And so I moved to Denver, and I ended up getting a job at a for-profit real estate developer who was doing the master development of an old Stapleton airport in downtown Denver. And a portion of it was affordable. They were committed to having a portion of it be affordable rentals and affordable for sale. And so that was my job, as I was tasked as kind of the coordinator of these things to get papers signed. And so from there, it was like, I had my first introduction about learning about what is a deed restriction and how do these different like legal documents work to make sure that it remains permanently affordable. And that part was really interesting to me. But the other part that I found just fascinating was meeting the people that were coming in to say, "I'm looking for a home. I'm looking for a place to live, a place to grow my family, a place to do whatever it may be." And I got to hear all of these different stories about it. It's like, you guys, this is such an interesting piece to be able to help them decide what kinds of designs they would like, or the size of this, whatever it may be. But so I fell in love with that. And I think I was lucky enough too that my parents have always told me that don't be afraid to try something new. If a new opportunity comes, as long as it's, you're moving up and building on skills that you've already gained, keep going. So from there, I have lived in 9 different states in my adult life, and I have worked on housing issues with new refugee populations in rural Minnesota. I worked with low-income households in DC to help them avoid foreclosure during the Great Recession. I worked for 6 years with the tribal populations in Maine, all doing housing. And so you get to hear all of these different stories, and you get to see, how do you make the puzzle fit? Because each group has different rules that they have to, or state has different rules that you have to live within.
Yeah.
And it's fun, because ultimately this is a place that somebody gets to have love and to have joy, and this is their safe spot, and you're helping connect them to that.
Yeah, interesting. it is an amazing thing to live in different parts of this country. And I also lived in New Mexico, and doing planning work, and in Georgia, and then here. And the rules are all different, the goals are different, but it's such a good experience to see. It's really culturally different in different places, and so, but it all applies,
Well, and I know that a big portion of this, we were supposed to be talking mostly about sustainability and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I know.
But you know what, I guess I'm really looking forward to starting the larger networking groups again at the national level, and going and meeting with my counterparts in different parts of the US to talk to them about, like, how is climate change impacting you? Because, here in Ithaca, we're not dealing with drought. That's not,
We're not dealing with drought.
water rights are not top of mind for us, but I know that our partners in Colorado or
Right.
California, these are things that they have to think about. So just talking through how, like, right now we've got new proposed flood maps. How is that impacting the design of our buildings going forward?
That's right.
Because the last thing that we want to do is put somebody who has a low income into a home that is going, if it floods, everything is gone. So it's just all of these different components.
That's
So if you can believe it, we're about out of time. We have 2 minutes left. We can go over just a little bit, but I want to pose one last question for you that's really in theme with the 1,000 Conversations project, and I'm really interested to hear what both of you say. So our prompt for 1,000 Conversations is, imagine it's 2035. We've created this sort of dream place that we live in the city of Ithaca. What does it look like? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Who's around you? So I'm curious, if you had all of the money in the world, all of the materials in the world, no supply chain issues, you had all of the staffing, and everyone agreed to everything that you said, what would be your Lisa likes that one. What would be your dream project? What do you see as something that this community could really benefit from, and that you think that you could really lend your skills to?
Well, I would like to see two things. We are a small city. We have a small area. It's pretty much built out, but people want to live here. So if people want to live here, we have to build taller and denser and all of that. But we really need to, but that means removing trees and green space and all of that. That is very important to people's mental and physical health and the quality of life. So I would really like to see, as much of that maintained as possible, but also I would really like to see designers integrating green space, plants into their actual buildings. It's being done, and I think it could have a huge impact on, air quality, but also how it feels, and, how it feels to be in a place. I would love to see that. And I would also love to see us really crack the nut of getting people out of their cars, which means better sidewalks, better integrated transportation system. We're very compact, but we have some very big physical barriers that prevent people feeling safe, not being in their cars in certain areas of the city.
I totally agree with you on that. I would add to it, I would really like to see a more diversified housing opportunities and options available, so that, like, where are the for sale condos,
Right.
multifamily buildings that's for sale, not just for rentals? And do we have housing options that can meet the needs of all incomes, not just 30 to 60% AMI or up to 80%? Like, there are a lot of households at 120 or 130% of area median income that are struggling to find decent place to rent or a decent place to buy. I would like there to be those kind of options, that not everybody wants to live in a single family home with a yard. Are there row homes? Are there, like, tiny homes? Are there ADUs? None of these things are going to be the solution, but I think as long as we can present as many options available, because every single one of us has different preferences.
Yes. And, we really, just to say something more about that, we're feeling what many communities are feeling. I mean, it's a national, maybe even a global thing of we are getting people who will build, we're getting affordable housing construction and we're getting luxury housing construction. We're not getting things in between. And that's where some of those options can start to be really creative and interesting. And we really need to house everybody.
I think I'm going to leave it on a hopeful note, but I think with the latest budget out of this state, I think they're starting to understand that, and more of our funders are starting to look at the idea of raising the income eligibility so that it is at 100 to maybe 120%.
Yeah.
And keep those pots still available for lower income households, but they're starting to expand more and devote more to that kind of workforce housing sort of model.
Amazing. Both of you are brilliant, and so thankful that we have both of you here. And anyone that's watching that has all of the money, support, and supplies in the world, we are now taking applications to fulfill both of these dreams. You can email them to revans@cityofithaca.org. No, I'm kidding, but thank you so much, both of you, for joining us, and thank you to our audience for joining us again. There were some questions in the chat that we unfortunately didn't have a chance to get through, but we do know how to contact you, so we will follow up. Thank you so much again for taking the time. This was a really fantastic conversation. It's great to hear, who is working on things in the city and the type of work that's being done. So thank you so much, and we will be back again next week. All new program, all new people, all new conversation. So please do join us Tuesdays at noon until 12:45. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.